Christmas time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good stuff.
Tyranny of the urgent.
Tyranny of the urgent.
At least it's jolly urgency.
Yeah?
Well, it's Christmas.
Until it gets to be too much.
Yeah.
And it's bah humbug.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've already vacillated into bah humbug. I'm back into jolly.
Oh, yeah. Nice job.
Well, for today. I mean,
Oh, it happens that quickly, doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a vacillator for you, right?
I tell you,
Isn't
it does
How
go
that-
quick.
Yeah.
It does go quick. It's all about the expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but hey, I'm just glad you're in the ho-ho moment.
That's right. The
Yeah.
ho ho moment.
Welcome to How I See It with me, Mark Pratt, and
Justin Sternberg. This is a podcast that works to counter cultural polarization through thoughtful conversations.
did you decorate for Christmas? I see your tree up from here.
Oh yeah, did I? Yeah, no. That's Meg. Every Black Friday, Megan's like, "Bam, we're doing this."
Wow,
Yeah,
cool.
By the end of the Friday, it's usually 90% done. But yeah, by the end of the weekend, she had it all. But yeah, we got lights up on the front. And she got a
Nice.
tree out there. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did see the tree on the way in. Yeah.
No, like outside.
No, I didn't see
Yeah,
the
there's
tree
one
outside.
on the patio.
Yeah, I was still sending a text when I was coming down your driveway, I'll be honest. It's like, trying to get some stuff done before.
Oh, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. So, once I parked,
Yeah.
I looked at the back of the house there
Yes.
where the addition
lights
is. And
everywhere,
yeah, your tree looks nice.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. You can give all that credit right straight up to Megan.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, Chris did ours too.
Yeah.
I did lights and beads.
Yeah.
It's
Beads on the
yeah.
tree.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Little
nice.
white beads, like
Cool.
say. Yeah, it is
It's
cool.
a tradition. You do the lights and beads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. White lights, white beads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can show you a picture if you'd like, but
Let's see it.
I'll see it.
Yeah.
It's right here. Took a picture, sent it to Lizzie. She was disappointed she wasn't able to be a part of the process.
As she should be.
Yeah. It's part of her and her mom's ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah. That's beautiful. That looks very similar to
Yeah.
ours, even in the corner like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll take a picture of ours and then we can post them on our Instagram.
Happy to do it. Oh, we have an Instagram?
We do. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Here, I've been telling people I don't have Instagram, so
You do. You just don't know it. Been posting lots of pictures of you, Mark.
yeah,
No.
that's okay.
No, lately it's just the episode images every
Yeah.
week. So, yeah, but we should put some more stuff in there,
Hmm.
like our pictures.
Maybe
Pictures of our trees.
maybe we should. Justin.
Yes, yes, we.
Yes.
All right, fair enough.
Kind of like decorating a tree.
Yeah.
We know who.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We decorated the tree.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yep. But yeah,
So technology.
technology.
That's Instagram for you.
Yeah. So, would you say
No,
no?
maybe.
I'm just
I'm
curious.
vacillating.
That's okay. So, would you say technology makes us more intelligent?
So, intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate that
Yeah, just
definition.
yeah. What is intelligence? So I feel like there's different ways to describe intelligence. I think there's the objective
Okay.
IQ, right?
Sure.
Which is not a perfect measurement of all types of intelligence.
Sure.
It's a measure of a specific aspect of intelligence.
Sure.
And then there are, there's emotional intelligence, right? Which
Sure.
isn't measured on any IQ tests, but also can significantly contribute or the opposite towards your success, right?
Sure.
There is wisdom, which is more of a applied knowledge / intuition, maybe,
Okay.
/ inspiration. There is street smarts,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Where, you grew up on the street and you learned, learn the streets. You know how to get around there. But if someone compete with you in math tests, then you would call yourself dumb, but
Sure.
in some aspects, you're smart. So there's that.
Yeah.
And then there is, as we were hinting at earlier, there's also this idea of inherited intelligence, or basically the generations of intellect that's been built prior to me has built a certain foundation of intelligence that I can then build my thing on.
Sure.
And feel like I'm super smart, but really it's 98% the foundation and 2% my application.
Sure. You put the star on top of the tree, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like, so when you say, are we more intelligent? Which one of those
Sure.
do you mean?
Yeah. And I would say, and maybe it is more about technology versus intelligence type dynamic, but I think about it in the context of having information available quicker can make us seem smarter, more intelligent. So in other words, like you shared, the foundation of information we have to build off of with technology is far more advanced than our forefathers.
Yeah.
Because, you that's not making light of their intelligence, but it's our information that has grown, that makes that difference from my perspective.
Yep. I think more often than not, we are kind of blown away by the intelligence of way back, generations.
Yeah.
And I mean, I even think about like in school, we learned about the primer. You know what I'm talking about? The primer?
Yeah,
primer?
the reading primer, you mean?
Yeah, I feel like they called it primer, and I was like, I don't think that's right.
I got
but
you.
Okay.
But either way, yes.
Yeah, that was like the
Phonics.
blue. It was like this iconic
Sure.
primer that
Looked
was
like
used.
almost like a hymnal in an old fashioned
maybe.
church.
So you've seen one like in
the color. Once you saw it,
Yeah.
you definitely recognize what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
But that was a thing in like what, early 1800s, maybe 17. I don't know.
Sure.
Early parts of our country that kids would learn in the little one-room schoolhouse. Like,
Sure.
And every kid in the school would learn from that same book.
Yep. I got you.
And the things that they would learn is just like, whoa, that's way too smart. Like
I hear you.
The
Yeah,
stuff they were learning and the stuff they were able to do. And even you think about handwriting and like how, intelligent even the handwriting looked. This is the way every person, was required to learn penmanship and do it at, a level that we can't even. And then you think about things like the pyramids, right? Where it's like, in some cases, in some ways, we're still not quite sure how they could have accomplished the feat. I mean, we certainly have theories, but it's like it would have taken a lot of craziness, no matter how it was accomplished, for the technology they had at that time. And then,
So do you think aliens helped with the pyramids?
yeah, of course,
Do you really?
no, but
Okay.
no.
I got you. Yeah.
I'm a very open-minded person, but that one feels like a bit of a
Okay.
stretch.
Well, you were just saying, many different. I was just checking to see if that was one of the many. That's
Yeah.
all.
Maybe, Mark.
Is it?
Maybe.
Well, now you're starting to vacillate. Come
Yeah,
on now.
well,
Is it or
that's,
isn't it?
We're not talking about conspiracies today.
Not
Otherwise, I
conspiracies.
would definitely. That
Yeah.
would be. Yeah. I'm not gonna go down there. You're not gonna let me do it.
Okay.
No, but there's this YouTube channel where
Yeah.
this guy is trying to recreate this Byzantine like sundial thing mechanism,
Oh, wow.
and he's rebuilding it from like these plans that were, what was that library? Alexandria Library. I think that's where.
Oh, yeah.
Where the original plans were found or whatever. And
In National Treasure.
oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Underneath the
Yes.
church in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
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 But no, it's so cool. It's this whole YouTube channel where he's just
It was in
bit by
Boston.
bit
The church was.
Oh,
the church-
Boston.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
right, Boston. My
Yeah.
bad. Boston.
wasn't it?
Get your
No,
historical
he sent the
fiction
other guy to
facts
Boston.
correct.
No, it was Wall Street. You are correct.
All right.
Yeah, it was my bad. Yep. Sorry.
I'm glad we straightened that out.
Yeah.
We want our historical fiction facts to be accurate.
Yes, but either way, the
Byzantine thing.
Yes.
He's
Sundial.
creating this, and the amount of effort he's going into recreating these things, and he's trying to do it using materials that they would have had at the time, so
Okay.
certain metals and all that.
Oh,
but
wow.
he's using modern tools. He's like, I'm not. No one's gonna, so he's using lathes and all that kind of stuff. But it's incredible. Like he's talking about throughout this whole series, like how precise the measurements are and how important these precise measurements are
Oh, wow.
for the whole thing to work. And just like, and it's, Byzantine Empire, and like, I don't know where that stands. I think that's definitely before Jesus, right? Like that's BC.
Sure.
Uh-oh. Let me
You're
look.
going to see there's our information.
This is how I'm going
This-
to be intellectual.
Yeah.
When was the Byzantine Empire?
As he speaks into his phone, now he's looking, now searching.
1453.
Okay.
Okay, not before Jesus.
Not before Jesus. So we were both wrong.
Oh, wait, 330 AD. What?
Uh-oh.
Uh,
Gonna have to do a fact check now.
I think. When? was-
Technology. Byzantine Empire.
Yeah, oh, wow. So 1,100 years it lasted.
Okay.
So 330 to 1453.
Okay.
All right.
So
Not as old as I thought, but
not before
still
Christ.
definitely old.
Sure.
Anyway, that was a long meander after your
That's okay.
question, but just how intelligent. What is intelligence, right? Like,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it the ability to create those things from almost no foundation and build what they built? I think
Sure.
to me that reflects intelligence much more than, well, we have a computer
Mm-hmm.
as our foundation to stand on, so we built an application or whatever that
Mm-hmm.
helps us save a little time in our day. It's like,
Sure.
look at this accomplishment. We saved, 20 minutes from every person's life or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm not going to take away from accomplishments today. I'm just saying compared to, with the foundation that they're standing on, would you call
Yeah.
that more intelligent? I would say definitely not. I would say that's a blessing of living in this generation, is you have the past generations to build on, and
Yeah.
that will be true in 200 years that they'll have.
So would you say, as you mentioned, the different eras, if you will, the pyramids, that kind of thing, would you say that as a culture, we tend to look down on previous generations in such a way that says they weren't as intelligent as you might personally think they were? Like the old ways were just dumb,
Yeah.
antiquated, kind of maybe the Chesterton's fence type thing. They just didn't have the intelligence that we have today to be able to know the right things to do.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely don't feel that way, but I know that that's certainly a belief system.
Yeah. Where would you say that comes from then? That belief
Well,
system.
my guess is that belief system has been true in certain pockets, of culture throughout all of time. That would be my assumption.
Help me understand that.
Like every generation, there's a facet of people who say, we're the smartest in the world and everyone before us was dumb.
Okay.
Because generally as a creature, we believe as, me being the center of the universe, right? And so, it's depending on how you're bent, but I definitely think it's like, I'm definitely the smartest one around, definitely the smartest of every generation, and I don't know.
Really? So you would boil it down more to almost a pride dynamic.
Yeah, I would. I don't know. What's your thought?
Well, no, that's why I'm honestly thinking about it from that aspect of if that facet has always been there, as you're, proclaiming or, declaring to a certain degree. I was just curious on that, and I hadn't really thought about it. I guess I saw it that I think that, if I may call it that, arrogance seems to be growing versus, in other words, I didn't necessarily, as I reflect back on, my parents or my grandparents, they had accomplishments, but I saw how it seemed as if they were, more generationally connected to where, these farms or these acres or this house, was handed down.
Yeah.
In such a way that there was a sense of gratitude towards the not necessarily the investment, but there was a gratitude for the effort, the work that went before us, clearing this field or building this barn or that kind of thing. And I guess I don't necessarily see that in the same dynamic. And granted, that's probably and there's a part of me that would be able to recognize, as we've grown, as the family system has become more, spread apart, the nuclear family, we have the ability to move and, relocate and still in some ways stay connected via technology, which I'm not, anti-technology, but I just think we've lost some of that dynamic of appreciating what, our predecessors have done.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that connects, and I guess that's where and granted, I'm not disagreeing with you that facet wasn't there, but I guess I see it more as a growing awareness that it just seems as if there is more judgment of the forefathers in some ways that say, they were just clueless.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like I agree. And I feel like your assessment is probably spot on, but I also feel like it's probably history repeating itself. And I keep thinking, as you were talking, it kept making me think about your quote that you brought a while back about good times make soft men.
I gotcha.
Soft men make bad times make strong men. Strong men make good times.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I think I got that.
That's pretty close. Pretty close.
You say it.
Yeah, it's going to be along that line. I might start with the strong men make good times. Yeah, hard times make strong men make good times basically make weak men.
And weak men make
hard times.
Yes.
So yes, that's
so that cycle is what was in my mind as you were talking. I feel like, I mean, you're able to see kind of a glimpse of maybe up to 3 generations from where you are, right? So you can see this decline of certain values and certain things, but you can also at the same time see an incline of good times, right? Like, so, yeah. I feel like we're probably heading towards that. And I feel like I'm certain this is not the first time this has happened. I imagine there's plenty of people in the time of Rome, the city of Rome, that were living in Rome, living it up, doing good, and with the same perspective of like our forefathers were idiots and we're the smartest ones around, and look what we built. But again, they're living in Rome, a city built by the forefathers.
Sure.
There's this foundation that they're then able to build on top of, and they think, look how tall I'm standing. It's because they're standing on that foundation, right? I feel like it's a very cyclical fashion. It just in terms of history repeating stuff. I wasn't there though, right? So I can't, of course I don't know that, but it just feels intuitive to me that would be the case. And
it makes sense in that aspect of that arrogance led to the fall of the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
to that degree that
Yeah.
we can be self-sustaining, you know, that there is no God, there is no need for God
Yeah.
in this dynamic because we can do it all.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean,
it-
the higher you get in the Tower of Babel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, the easier it is to fall.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mix metaphors there, but
But it's okay. In that process, as we're thinking, and I guess that's where I'm in agreement with you. We're not always so self-aware
yeah.
as we might think we are.
Yeah, because I think it requires an awareness that extends beyond multiple generations.
Sure.
And I think that's a tall order for anyone,
Yeah.
much less those who are inclined to just assume we're smarter, right? Like, I think
Sure.
that's what's happening more than anything. It's like, well, just look around. Of course we're more intelligent.
Yeah.
Look. Of course. You know, like, and I just think,
So is information deceptive?
is information deceptive? That's,
In other words,
explain it.
we can look at what we have. In other words, we have the ability to do this. We know all of these things.
Yeah, I see.
And yet it just makes us in some ways more dependent or, you know, on that information. And really we just kind of lose sight. In other words, our focus gets shifted in some ways. And, you know, we to where we become more concerned about interest rates and stock markets, you know, and just my momentary comfort than being able to recognize, okay, how do we live our lives in such a way that has an impact, you know? I guess avoiding the distractions of information.
Yeah.
Based on recognizing that, yes, history is going to repeat itself. And we can learn from that in such a way that says, yeah, what do we do now, knowing that this isn't going to be the way it's going to be forever? And I'm not being dramatic. But
no, but I mean, that's just a fact.
Yeah.
That's history, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think about it, you know, even, I guess I wrestle with that part of, okay, God's faithful all the time. And yet, you know, even as a culture, I think we're kind of in this process that we can figure it all out. If we just adjust this or do that, you know, we can maintain this current market or this current dynamic. And it's like, I guess that I see that as being small.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get into that process of, you know, a doom and gloom type, you know, the sky's going to fall type thing. But I guess I just see it as being bigger than us in the whole scheme of things. And I guess that's where I think about it from a dependence, a reliance. And I think when we get to that point of being able to say we're smarter and we've got it all figured out, that's I'll say a dangerous place to be.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I agree. I guess my question to you would be, do you feel like the way you feel about how it is right now, do you feel like it is at a higher pinnacle, you know, than ever in the past? I mean, just
Higher, at what at a higher pinnacle?
like, I don't know, just kind of the sentiment of how smart we think we are.
I think I see that, maybe that arrogance, if you will, more so as a culture
yeah.
than I can recall.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I'm not saying that.
I guess that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
If you feel like it's at a peak for what from your vantage point, or if you feel like it's at an all-time peak, if that makes sense.
Yeah, from my vantage point, the mighty 53 going on 54 years.
Yeah, I mean, through a little bit of extension through your parents and
Yeah.
stories, but yeah.
It just seems as if, And I guess part of it is a lot of it comes back to the information, because I think you can receive so much information nowadays that isn't necessarily beneficial.
Yeah.
And I would say there's more confusion in some ways based on the amount of information we have available. And I think in some ways it has made us more anxious.
Yeah.
As far as being able to go forward in confidence without second guessing ourselves, or in that process to be able to recognize, if we were to go back, 100 years, we could look and, the average person would say, that's not a good idea. Mm-hmm. You follow me? I mean, the majority of people would say that isn't a good idea. In other words, and you can take that to whatever, having, divorce, you can take that to, transgender issues, it's like, that's not beneficial. And I think as a culture, we might say, well, you just don't know how beneficial it is. And I would say, if we go back in history, that person would say, no, I'm not sure that you see where that road is leading, and the implications, the consequences of that. Mm-hmm. And I would even bring it, back to a political aspect of, okay, how far in debt can a country go, or to that degree, and recognize that there just isn't a consequence to it. Mm-hmm. We can prop this whole thing up. We can make it work.
Yeah.
And yet there's going to be a point where it doesn't work anymore.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of the dynamic. That's like, no, we think we can. Mm-hmm. And there's a way to prop this up. And I guess that's where it kind of, and I see the wheels kind of turning in your head, as I'm sharing that. I'm not trying to be.
I'm just thinking.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Which part?
Well, when I was thinking about propping it up from
I mean, that's one of those things where it's like, I think, like you said, our forefathers would be like, what the flip are you doing? Like, we never intended to be in debt as a country, intended for every other country, like we wanted to be the greatest country, and yet, we would talk back and say, we are the greatest country.
Sure.
I mean, like, so I think those things are, I don't have enough intelligence to speak to those things in a way that's, that valid, but I'll just say, like, I think it's surprising how much we've been able to prop it up.
Yes.
I would never have guessed we could continue on this trajectory from when I was in high school and hearing about how bad the debt was, right?
Yeah,
and all this stuff, and like how catastrophic it was. And just kind of, there was a little bit of doom and gloom outlook as to how our country was moving. Mm-hmm. And that was 20 some years ago.
Sure.
And I'm
not trying to reiterate that. I'm not trying to bring that up again.
I guess.
But recreate. That's what
as good times progress, soft men increase.
I hear you.
Poor decisions also increase, and wisdom decreases. And I just feel like there's so many correlating circumstances that
I gotcha.
I definitely think at some point we hit the tipping point and it goes to hard times. Like I don't. Yeah. That's just history to me, and that's why I kind of just chalk this whole thing up to a historical pattern. I guess my question to you was more: do you feel like that historical pattern is reaching a fever pitch, or like do you feel like we're like it's that up and down cycle is like every wave it gets bigger and bigger and bigger to the degree where we hit the end times, right? Where we're in the revelation mode where things are real bad, and it's a result of poor decisions and just that kind of the Tower of Babel thing. And again, the Bible's full of those cycles that, Noah, we're talking about in church right now. And like,
Sure.
that was a season where the whole world was evil and it was
Mm-hmm.
just, Noah was whatever. And then the Tower of Babel is another example
Mm-hmm.
of just like the whole world was just
Yeah.
at this point, where there needed to be a shakeup sort of thing. And then like, I think about Nineveh too a little bit.
Sure.
I feel like there was kind of a cultural thing there that was arrogant,
Sure.
And I think about the Roman Empire,
Yeah.
Alexander the Great, just
Yeah.
all of these cycles, all these empires, empires rise and fall, right? Like we know that's
Sure.
a universal truth,
Yep.
I guess I'm just more inclined to think this is just we're just on the roller
The loop.
coaster ride.
I gotcha.
And I'm thankful I'm on this part of the roller coaster ride. I'd rather be on this one than the hard times, but at the same time, every generation was fine.
I hear you.
I mean, that sounds terrible. I mean, that is terrible to say because there were some generations or some experiences that were truly horrifying. Holocaust, for example. And, there's many things as a result of that cycle that was very bad for very many people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I genuinely am very thankful that I'm on this side, even if it means a little bit of soft men and arrogance. It's like, well, I'm glad I'm on this part of the roller coaster ride.
And I'm thinking about it in that context, and yet I'm also recognizing that's our part right now. And then how at that point, how do you feel about what your kids will experience?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, yes. I feel like this ride is going to keep moving up for a little while longer. I don't know.
You're
how long.
hopeful.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Hopeful. And also,
When you say a little while longer, your children's lifetime?
yes, I honestly don't know because
Oh, wow.
it ties into I think the AI conversation for me is kind of the most relevant one to my kids' future. Honestly, that's how I feel.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah,
the
yeah.
AI conversation is really going to be the tipping point one way or another
Hmm.
for whatever the next generation. Whether that helps us or hurts us and tips us into bad times or, and further and, enhances the good times for a little bit longer.
Sure.
So I honestly don't know. I don't know, Mark.
Yeah. And that's okay.
I feel like there's nothing to be done about the roller coaster ride. But I believe you and I doing this podcast and just the various other things I'm doing in life is my version of saying, I'm not going to be on this ride. I'm going to do, I want to do firm foundation stuff.
I hear you.
You know what I mean? I'm, again, mixing metaphor, so maybe it's not very clear what I'm saying. But I guess what I'm saying is I'm trying to build my life on principles versus,
Information.
yeah, the empty foundations, whether it's information technology,
Yeah.
AI, whatever it is, or, like, look how great we are, all these things. I think,
Yeah.
Chesterton's fence, that kind of stuff. Like, that's what I want to build my foundation on, and I want my kids to build their foundation on top of these same things.
Sure.
And so part of this podcast for me, and I've said this before, is a little bit about legacy, about, hopefully that the truth in these episodes will permeate
Sure.
in future generations if my kids do have to go through crazy stuff. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's
Yeah, it
like
makes
I'm
sense.
doing what I can.
You want them to have
to-
a solid foundation based on your truths that you desire to share through.
well, not my truth, but
Well,
yes,
the
but what
truth.
what
The
I'm
truth,
learning,
God's
hopefully
truth.
I can help. Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just don't have a good answer because I can't control what's going to happen to them, and it certainly isn't helpful for me to fret about
Uh-huh.
what that tipping point might look like and what they might have to endure.
Right.
And I mean, this is something Megan talks a lot about, but like so many of her clients they just sit in their chair and they just chat, right? Like that's just the nature of being a hairstylist. You're kind of like a mini therapist.
I
right?
know,
I
give you that.
Pseudo therapist.
No, I'd say full on therapist, a hair therapist.
That's right. That's what she should put on the
yes,
hair therapist. Anyways, but one of the things they say is so often is like, I can't believe you chose to have children in this generation, or like, it's so hard. It must be so hard, and all this, just like,
and so many of our counterparts have actually made that choice. In our I'll say
not to have kids.
Yeah, not to have
there's
because
way fewer kids in this generation.
And to that point, I routinely have conversations with people.
Really?
Who are saying, no, we just chose not to have kids, based on what we see and the fact that we wouldn't want to, raise kids in what we see.
Yeah. But Megan and I also have always bristled against that idea. It's like, yes, there's some weird, bad aspects to the world right now. There's also some good stuff. And my kids are actually growing up in a very cush world. So, like, you're saying it's going to be so hard. It's like, no, actually, it's easier for them than it was for you. Like, yeah. Yeah.
And I guess that's where I'm wrestling with this information versus intelligence, this aspect of being able to say, okay, is there still hope in this process of information?
Yeah.
We have so much and we can build on that. And I'm not saying we can indefinitely props things up. There's going to be some consequences to our choices, mine, yours, today, in the future, that kind of thing, But at the same time, I'm thinking about it in this context that, God still remains faithful. And yet there's also a consequence to a culture that might say, we've got it all figured out.
Yeah.
And I'm with you in that context. I want, our kids and I want other kids. I want all the kids and all the parents to be able to say, no, God is that, source that we need over intelligence, over information, but I just see that process of information tending to make us more anxious and make us more, at times, distracting us.
Yeah. So I just thought I couldn't really form the thoughts about what I was thinking about my kids, but it kind of came to me while you were talking, as it usually does. I don't know what you said, but I have an answer to your last question. Just kidding. No, well, yeah.
Go ahead.
I think about Daniel, right, in the book of Daniel in the Bible, and how that generation, basically Israel was destroyed and taken into captivity. I mean, that's a bad cycle. That's the down part of the roller coaster ride, and yet Daniel shone through that. He had something that stood out, that he was separate from those around him to the degree where he was standing on the foundation of truth, not on the times, right? And that's my hope, that's my desire, that's my goal for my kids, and that hopefully their kids is like, as the roller coaster does what it does, stay on this firm foundation and stand out. You know what I mean? Be ready. Make the right choices. Have integrity. Like, be the one that they choose because they can't trust anyone else. You know what I mean? Like, that's my perspective on my kids. I don't know what this world is going to do, but I want you to stand out and be a light and do the right thing and be the person that can shine and be an example of God's children in this culture, whatever this culture is going to do, good, bad, ugly.
Right.
You know what
I'm saying? To where you become the Daniels of this generation.
Or Joseph, right?
Or sure.
That's why I named Joseph. Joseph is like this idea that, like, whatever life throws at you, I want you to. There's this little anecdote or little story is basically this donkey falls in a well, right?
Okay.
And so the farmer goes and he goes, oh no, the donkey's in the well. We're never going to get him out. He calls all his farmer friends. What should we do? And finally they decide, well, you know what we should probably do is just bury him. Like we should just
Sure.
fill up the well,
fill in the
make
well.
sure no other donkeys fall in there and kind of put him to his grave kind of thing.
Okay.
Put him out of his misery. So they start, tossing dirt down in the
Sure.
well and interesting. The donkey's shaking the dirt off and stepping up.
Sure.
So they kept throwing more dirt and said, man, that donkey won't get buried. And as they realize, like, they filled up the well and the donkey walks out.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. No, I hear you.
That's what I want for my kids.
Okay.
Okay.
I hear you. Yeah.
So when I think about the craziness, the bad, the stuff that's about to come, I want them to shake it off and step up,
I hear you. Yeah.
So that's, especially when people bring those kind of conversations, the doom and gloom to the future. I'm like, no, but that's where our firm foundation really matters. And that's where our faith can pull us through. And, you think about Hiding Place.
Sure.
What's
Corrie
her
ten
name?
Boom.
Corrie ten Boom and her sister.
We got that
right?
one
yes,
right.
Nice job. We got it. Yeah. You don't have to yell at us this time, Linda. We got it. Mark got it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a perfect example of someone who shook it off and stepped up,
Sure.
stepped up. And just if you read that book, it's just nonstop shaking it off and stepping up. And that was I can't think of a worse, situation for someone to go through that Holocaust situation, be in those those encampments, see their sister die in that encampment, and yet that faith held strong. And she also talks about how hard her faith was and how terrible the thoughts that she had that were so terrible and all these things. I guess maybe I'm just naive enough to think that's what my kids can have.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Can be.
Yes.
Sure.
That's my desire. That's my goal. I feel like I'm not going to have to do that. I feel like I have it cushy,
I gotcha.
right? But
Yeah.
I also feel like, but I really want to prepare them in case that's the case for them. And so what does that look like? Well, I think it looks like, this kind of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing on that.
What about you? Because
Well,
I know
and
you asked me about my kids specifically because I think you think about your kids a lot too.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about
And I
it?
think, it is more, and granted, there's a difference between, Lizzie's perspectives and John's perspectives,
Yeah.
on life in general. They're just different.
Yeah. I
you
can
know.
see it. I can see it. Yeah.
And, and I recognize, probably there is that part that John might be a little more, no, I'll figure it out. I can do this. And then, Lizzie has more of that, concern for, what's it going to be like, or, as, the possibly at times the difficulty that it would be to, get a job, live off that, income, be able to have your own place, to buy a house, kind of the things that she's seen us do, I don't know as if she feels as confident,
Yeah.
to be able to, not that she isn't every bit as intelligent or whatever, but, the ability more so than her dad, of course, but that ability to, duplicate what we were able to offer her,
Yeah.
and I think there is more concern on her part, to be able to do that. And I think about that, from that perspective at times, and I'm not saying, she isn't willing to rise above or isn't going to be, but, at the same time, I'm thinking about it in the context of, I think the culture will be a little bit different, as time goes by, because, even from a, how, when my kids were young, how much governmental oversight there was, or, dependence on government, those kind of things. I think it's a different dynamic. Still part of I'm agreeing with you in that, part of the roller cycle, the roller coaster cycle,
roller cycle. Yeah. Yeah.
But, and I'm definitely not, I'm still hopeful, but I think as a culture, I see more of that concern, like we're saying about people not having kids, or, you know, my kids being able to duplicate what they experienced, you know, and granted, part of how often will you hear, and, you know, nothing against you folks, how often will you hear say, well, you can't do it on a single income anymore. You follow me? Mm-hmm. You know, that's, you know, another cultural thing. It's like years ago, yeah, that was still possible. You know, in some cases, but it does seem in many, I'm not saying that's true, but
I mean,
but there's also going to be some choices.
Trade-offs you're willing to make.
Exactly.
I think about Kelly and Jackson. I think they're doing just fine.
Yeah. I hear you.
Kelly's my sister-in-law, Jackson's my brother-in-law, who's a park ranger, but, you know, they do a single income. They have several kids, and they're making it. They're thriving, and I think, there's many other examples, but they come to mind. Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, there's definitely for me, it's about fighting perception problems.
Yes.
There's a perception that your opportunities are limited. The fact is, no single person's opportunities are more limited than any other person's outside of God's grace and sovereignty. And again, this comes back to theology. If you know,
sure.
For me, it does.
Yeah, but you have white privilege.
Yeah. That was God's sovereignty. That's the thing. I mean, you think you're catching me. I agree. I think there's many white men who wouldn't be able to say, yeah, and I'm able to build on that foundation and be successful. I know that that's true, and I know that that's benefited me in my life. I can specifically see instances throughout my life where that was true.
I got you.
Where I had, you know, but I could choose not to see that.
Sure. You see it as the sovereignty of God.
Yeah. And same with like Lizzie, you know, like she is going to be fine. I believe she loves Jesus and she cares about him more than everything else in this world on most good days, right? Like, I mean, she's like, I think she's a human like me. So some days, you know, you lose perspective.
I know she is. She's a human. Yes.
So she's going to be fine. Like, I trust God's plan for her life is going to take care of her, even if there are some challenges, even if she can't quite do it the way you and, you know, Chris did it. Like, that's, of course, not important that she does it like you did it.
She can do it better.
Yeah.
I agree.
She's going to do it in a way, I believe that I don't have any doubt she's going to be successful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I feel like my job in life is to fight that negative perception because, again, you don't have to be on the roller coaster ride. You can be on the walk plank next to it that's built on concrete, right? Like,
I got you.
You can be separate from it, in it, but not of it.
Sure.
Right? Which is what the Bible talks about.
Yeah.
And I think when we get on the ride, okay, well, you're on the ride now, so you're going to get what you get.
Sure.
I don't think you have to be. I say that at the same time. I am on the ride. Like, I'm benefiting from the upward swing of economy and all these things. And, like, I can't separate myself from that. But I don't know. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
It does. I recognize what you're saying. In other words, if you desire to be like Daniel and on the walk plank beside, to where you're not given to the rise and the fall. And yet there will be, historically speaking, and I think this is part of intelligence, you know, our wisdom, if you will, to be able to recognize, yes, as a culture ignores God, there will be harder times that come. Yeah. There, you know, to where, you know, Daniel was walking. I mean, did he outlive 3 kingdoms, or at least 3 kings different, you know?
For sure.
The Medes, the Persians, you know, to where I realized for him, he continued to walk, and the kingdoms rose and fell. So he experienced that, and he was still able to recognize God's faithfulness through it all. But that's not to say that he didn't experience some hard times when those kingdoms changed, when he went out of exile. Did I think, you know, and here again, maybe it's the roller coaster analogy that breaks down. You know, he was able to continue to trust in God, even though the circumstances fell down. You know, he went through that exile, had to move, had to do things different, you know, and yet there is that wisdom, that faith that is separate from information. And then the information can tend to lead us to say, okay, how can I prop myself up? Mm-hmm. Or what do I need to do to protect myself?
Yeah.
You know, because it's more about that self sustaining than God sustaining.
Yeah, and I don't believe in what's the word? Abdicating my responsibilities.
Sure.
I believe that first I look to God as my foundation and trust him with the barns being built, and then I go, you know, humbly to build the barns, right?
Sure.
To say, but also, you know, as far as hard times and all that, we often will, I mean, I think it's natural to hear about the stories in the Bible. They don't have a lot of color commentary as to how the people felt before, after, during, or whatever. You think about the story of
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Yes, thank you. They were also with Daniel, right? In that whole exile. They were sent to a furnace to burn. Mm-hmm. And we think, you know, I'm not going to spoil the story yet, but like, that's a bad downward dip in the roller coaster. Like if you're on a roller coaster ride, like that's the end. That's where you crash.
I gotcha.
They weren't on the roller coaster. They were next to it.
Sure.
And they were spared from being burnt so much so that, you know, Jesus met them in that fire and they were able to be delivered, and it made what's his face, the ruler guy,
Nebuchadnezzar.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Be like, what in the world? What do you guys got going on? You know?
Yeah.
And again, that's what I want for my kids. That's what I want for me. That's what I want for you. That's what I want for you know, Lizzie and John. It's like, be Meshach. Sheesh. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Be Daniel. Be Joseph. Be next to the ride, not on it.
Sure.
Put your foundation in what really matters. Mm-hmm. And when the circumstances come into your life, take them in stride, knowing that he's in control.
Sure.
None of this matters as long as you're standing on him. Mm-hmm. Peter, you're in the storm.
Sure.
Jesus calls you out in the water. As long as you're looking at Jesus, you can flip and walk on water.
I hear you.
Like, you can do something that doesn't make sense. You know, forget the roller coaster. Now we're in a storm on the sea, walking on water. Like, clearly a firm foundation is under your feet at that point. That's not the actual reality, which is water, which is a storm.
Sure.
I'm just saying, like, so many examples throughout the Bible is, if your foundation's in the right place, whatever's happening around you isn't relevant.
Sure.
Which is, again, an oversimplification.
I get
it. Relevant.
Sure.
It's an enhancement to the story, right? Mm-hmm. Like the fact that he's walking on water only makes the story better. The fact that there was a storm, the fact that all these things only makes it better, you know?
Yeah.
But the fact is, he was just looking at Jesus,
the focus,
and trusting him.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same with
where is our focus?
Meshach. Their faith was their focus. Same with Daniel. Same with Joseph.
Yeah.
Right? It was where their focus was. And they weren't being tossed about by the waves around them. They weren't being thrown off the roller coaster ride. They were staying focused, singularly focused.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Nice job, Justin. Yes.
Your thoughts?
No, it's those are great thoughts. And I think, you know, that's what we need to be able to offer.
Yeah.
You know, to those around us who are, you know, struggling with that cultural dynamic of, you know, the sky is falling type stuff. You know, granted, there will be difficult times that come. Our wisdom, our intelligence.
Like when you're being told you have to go into that furnace and burn to death.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Like, I agree with that completely.
Yeah. And yet, I think our wisdom can tell us that's okay.
Yeah.
because ultimately this isn't our home. This isn't our safe place. This isn't where we have to live indefinitely.
Yeah.
You follow me? To where if it rises, if it falls, the coaster goes up, but the coaster goes down. This isn't our home.
Right.
And, I think this is, we can tend to confuse, heaven with our kingdom on earth, that kind of thing. And God doesn't offer that. We get focused on building our kingdom here on earth, versus, being able to spend, eternity in heaven. That kind of thing is far different.
Yeah.
And so I think, at times, especially like you say, if I don't recognize that foundation, or, if I don't have that foundation that's Jesus Christ, I'm going to try to prop everything up, and all of these other characteristics, all these other concerns, all this information is going to overwhelm and concern me.
It's going to be the waves.
Yes.
And you're going to start sinking.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think that's where, and granted, I'm not saying, anybody that chooses not to have kids is, avoiding that, I'm not, I just want, but at the same time, being able to recognize, okay, God still has it, everything under control, regardless of what you might hear, regardless of the, the choices people might even make, it's a part of the plan. So,
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I definitely have empathy for those who don't, want to have kids or whatever. I don't have any problem with that. I think it's just a matter of, not living fear-based, right?
Sure.
And I also think, too, a lot of times when we live in that caution and that whatever, we're trying to borrow from tomorrow's grace, right? Like, you are going to go through some hard circumstances, no matter what the roller coaster is doing.
Sure.
It doesn't matter. Everyone goes through hard stuff. Some people harder than others, right? And the thing that we have to trust, and the thing I'm trusting for me if things go bad, but definitely my kids, is that when the time comes, they'll be on the firm foundation and they will be given what they need in the time they need it.
Sure.
I don't believe in this pillars of the faith idea where every person mentioned the Bible was a cut above everyone else not in the Bible, with a few exceptions. I mean, I think Paul,
I hear
but in every case where we hear incredible circumstances, I believe that they were given what they needed in the time they needed it.
Sure.
And for Daniel to say, I'm not going to eat your food, like, I bet if you would have asked him 5 months prior to that, like if he's in exile and they're barely eating anything and they're, struggling through life. If there was hey, in 5 months, did you know you're going to be offered the king's best meal? Will you take it? Like, I'll take anything right now.
Sure.
You know what I mean? My guess is like when the time came, the Holy Spirit convicted him and he said, you know what? I think I need to do this different. And I don't think it was because Daniel was the superpower. I believe he had the Holy Spirit. I believe that he was guided by God and given that, the strength in that moment. Same with Joseph. Same with Peter, right? And I believe that's going to be true for everyone listening. Like, if you're able to be looking at him in the middle of that storm, then you can walk on water. If you stop looking at him, you won't. And he will give you the ability. Do you think Peter had it in him to walk on water? Of course not.
I hear you.
That was God-given. Right?
Sure.
That ability that he had was not a Peter ability. It's not a human ability.
I got you.
Right? And I believe that when you are able to walk through fire, when you are able to go into your work situation where they want you to do something you shouldn't, and you say, I can't, I believe that is a God-given ability to do that.
Sure.
In the moment, as you need it. And I believe that's going to be true as culture does what culture is going to do, and you're called in the moment to make a split decision. Will you support this? Will you stand up against this? Will you be loving? Will you be hateful? Will you whatever? You have an opportunity there to look at Jesus and do something supernatural,
Sure.
right? To do what he's given you the ability to do. Or you can say, I've been preparing for this my whole life and I'm ready, and like, I don't know. I always knew this moment was going to come and I got my shotguns ready.
Yeah.
And like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the former is better.
I hear you. Yeah. Well, thanks for
That's
sharing.
how I see it.
Yes, that is how you see it. And I appreciate you sharing. Yes. Those are good things.
Got me all fired up.
I did. I see that. Anything
Got
else?
my shotguns ready. I don't have any
Anything
shotguns.
else? Anything else you need to
Get off my chest.
say? No, I'm serious. And that I appreciate what you're sharing. And then recognizing, yes, we don't have anything over our forefathers, but yet they have given us a foundation that we can build on in wisdom that is able to say, yeah, we're not smarter. If anything, we can be more distracted.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the information piece comes in, as I try to bring it back to
back to the original
technology versus information.
I think like it's kind of like investment.
Yeah.
Like when we build on a foundation that was previously built, we should think of it as like how we invest our money. When you put your money in a certain investment, there's no guarantee, but you do your best, right, to figure out what's going to be a reasonable return, and then you recognize that there's market fluctuation, right?
Sure.
So there's going to be good days and bad days, but ultimately, if you try and do the right thing, and then I feel like when you build on the foundation that's built by previous generations, that's what it is. Like,
Sure.
I'm going to build on this thing, but I'm not going to put all my eggs in that basket.
Yep.
And I think all our eggs should be in the Jesus basket. And what we build out here is still built on the foundation that's with him, but we're able to say, this is an investment in this direction. It may work out. It may not.
Sure.
This AI thing might, become a thing, or it might, destroy us all. But for now, I'm going to use it to enhance what I'm able to,
Sure.
So I feel like that's what technology is. I feel like that's what using the wisdom, intelligence, the foundation that's been built by previous generations. Is just an opportunity to potentially build more on top of it, but recognizing that could fall,
Sure.
and that's okay.
Yep.
Back to that original thing.
And that's how we see it.
Hey, thank you for listening to our podcast. If you like How I See It, please do all the things that podcasts tell you to do. Subscribe, rate, review, follow us, and or talk nicely about us on social media. If you want to reach out, the email is us@howiseeit.click. Yep, I said .click, as in .click. Please tell your friends about this show, and we'll see you on the next one.